Here's the Roland System-1m in all its glory. It's rack-mountable, Euro rack-mountable, quite light, although pretty sturdy in terms of its sort of front panel construction and so on. It's split into a number of conventional synth sections, so we have the LFO there, oscillator 1 and 2, mixer section, pitch section, and then over here on the filter section here and the amp section with a few extra bits and bobs and effects, and then we see the USB cable plugged in there which goes to the computer. And along the top we have a whole load of ports, and on the back panel as well we have Midi Ins and Outs as well. So oscillator 1 and 2, pretty conventional oscillator sections here, multiple waveform, cross mod, and then you also get this color control which actually varies what some of the waveforms do in terms of pulse width modulation and doubling and things like that, ring mod and sync, and also fine tune for the oscillator 2 there. Mixer section, we've got a sub oscillator with -1 and -2 in terms of its tuning for octaves and noise source, and then pitch. Over to the filter here, low pass filter, high pass filter, which is a static filter, and then the low pass filter is controlled by the envelope, and an amp section here, which again, the conventional amp envelope with tone crush controls, which relate more to the effects rather than to the overall kind of sound of the amp section itself, to be honest. 4-note polyphony, and when we play those 4 notes, 4-note chord, although there are some caveats to that we'll look at shortly. The effects section, reverb and delay. This delay is quite nice, and that you can give it a tweak in terms of the time, and you actually get that nice sort of modulation. A shame there's no external modulation for this, and obviously no chorus, Roland chorus, which is a real shame. I think something really missed out there. Anyway, so if we then come back to some of the other features, let's look at the raw oscillator here. Push up oscillator 1 level. Now let's dive into the oscillator 1 section here, choose a waveform. You can see the cross modulation there. Now colour does various things depending on the waveform chosen. The classic example would be selecting a square wave and using it for pulse width modulation. And if we route the LFO into it there, you get that classic PWM sound. Let's open up the filter. Here is more its glory. And the depth of that particular effect. You can hear there as well. Pretty straightforward. And so depending on the waveform you get different types of modulation effects there with that colour control. There's a second set of waveforms which are basically doubled, so you get their pitch detuned versions of the original wave. So you get that thick super saw kind of vibe going there if you want to, using just one oscillator, and these of course can still be stacked, so we can have the second oscillator there. Let's go back to a straight sawtooth wave for oscillator 1 and 2, detune the second one, here's sync. Well, for harsh tones. We'll add in the sub oscillator. And now let's listen to the filter in its raw state. 2 different filter modes there. Let's use some envelope control. Pitch envelope there as well. It's a simple 2-stage envelope, attack and decay. Great for sort of those quick filter sweeps, also when you're playing drum sound if you've got the noise dialed in as well. And you can hear that tone control is pretty subtle, a bit more top end, a bit more low end, a bit crusher. Extreme as you'd expect. And we also have the reverb as well. which you'll notice is stereo. Unlike the delay, which sounds pretty mono to me. It's nice to have that onboard reverb. There's not much you can do in terms of customization. There aren't the options you get with, say, the TR8 when it comes to reverb. But it's nice to have it. And of course, there's no scatter or arpeggiator on this compared to when you compare it with the keyboarded version. Now, if you click to mono mode, you notice those lights at the top light up, and this means you can now start patching things. Just notice the lightweight of the unit there. So now I can take, say, the LFO output and plug it into another source using these conventional 3.5mm, these mini jack cables. We can flick around, we can actually take inputs and outputs. You can connect from one part of the synth to another, but also to other external gear as well. You've got the gate and CVs. And of course this plug out button, if you're lucky enough to own one of the other synth models, these are premium, you have to pay for these. It means you can actually then load in one of what at the moment amount to 3 different synth models, SH2, SH101 and ProMars, all kind of Roland classics, I suppose. Have a different sound, so most noticeable there with the filter. And of course some of the controls won't work because the original synth didn't have those particular parameters. You get memories, which are separate for the basic System-1m model and also the plug-out model. And then we have the Roland System-1m.